Hello and welcome back to another Monday morning episode. CNG 124 had a few good, interesting emails, and say interesting because they definitely bring up topics that we're trying to master within this course. Um, and that one of them would be, at what perspective are you looking at network topology? Remember, this goes through like in week one, we covered some like network topologies where we said, okay, pan. Let me see if I can't bring some up on the other screen. Pan, LAN, WLAN, CAN, um, uh, topology types. Um, so these are these are the topology types: ring, mesh, tree, bus, hybrid, star. But there's also the networks themselves, um, which we look into. This would work. This one gives us 11 network types, and perhaps it's what just happened. Some sort of pop-up. It gives us 11 network types: PAN, LAN, wireless LAN, CAN, MAN, metropolitan, wide area network. And we're going to start looking at wide area networks just a little bit. Um, I guess we're looking at them now, really. When you're doing your subnetting labs, the wide area networks are going to be basically those serial connections from router to router. Although they look really small on our diagrams, they can be relatively large area of network. SAN, um, passive optical local area network, enterprise private network, and virtual private network. So many types of networks. And one of the questions that came about was it had to do with when does what MAC address is used to create a table entry. So we have to really think about what the question is answering, but not only that, but put in perspective of what perspective am I looking at the network? Am I looking at a network connected to another network? Um, Probably not as much. More than likely, I'm just looking at the local area network, the LAN, and seeing how the LAN, that one computer, talks to that switch right above it. And remember, when you're doing we did this in a lab earlier, CMD, where we can look up our information, ipconfig. We can do ipconfig, and it gives us a good amount of information. And we can do ipconfig all, and we get more information. I get all my media cards, whether over ipconfig, where it's just two, with their um, their very generic information. And then the link local address, which is going to be the IPv6 address, which is very similar to um, the MAC address. We're going to look at this just a little bit later on, but it's made up of the MAC address actually. But the MAC address, it's only used to communicate within a local area network. Once that packet has to leave the local area network, it's immediately looked at as an IP address. It's saying, okay, I need this IP address to find that out, to find where that packet's going. So very good questions. Other question was, what was the other question? I'm forgetting that other question. I'll probably just put an update in it when I make the check-in video. Yeah, because it's skipping my head right now. This week, we jump into, I don't believe there's no reading this week. Make sure you're reviewing content. Go back, look at that content. Um, Again, don't let up in this class, because if you get too comfortable and forget something, when we go to move on, it's going to be just a little bit more challenging for you. We jump into Wireshark, which is actually a really cool networking tool. I would suggest doing the Wireshark lab at your house. If you have a Mac, or I'm sorry, if you have a PC, actually it would work on anything. Um, if you have a network that has relatively small amount of devices talking on your network to the internet, the Wireshark lab is going to be really easy to do. Trying to accomplish this lab on campus or at a place that is busy, you'll run into, you're going to be filtering a lot more information. So just be aware of that. Wireshark is a very useful tool. It's free, a very powerful tool. Hackers also use Wireshark to obtain other information. But for this class, we're just going to be looking at how packets travel across the internet. And once again, we're talking about ARP. We're going to be looking at, the MAC address and how the MAC addresses are actually used in combination with the IP address. So we're going to get like an IP address and a MAC address and kind of smush them together and see how they work. With this lab, I know I give you a demo.com to use. I believe it's cisco.com. Feel free to switch it up and use someplace that an entity that you guys frequent. Check them out and say, hey, you know what, what's going on here? In some cases, you might run into multiple servers being used, and when you get a reply back, it may not be um, the specific IP that you went to the first time. It may redirect you to another IP, but be aware of that, and start to look at it and be like, okay, well, why would they use two servers? And, probably because there's a lot of traffic going to that website as it goes. Make sure to look at the labs. This is one of those labs it's going to take a while. All the answers, though, can be found in this week's material. So make sure you're going back and verifying if something looks like you cannot find the answer. Make sure you revisit those slides and go back and look at it, because the answers are in there. A lot of people get this is one of those labs I get the most errors on again as we do it. Build a hub network, probably one of the coolest. It was one of the coolest hands-on labs I did, and I'm glad to bring it here. I'm glad I transitioned it to the online um, way, the online version of it now, because now it's a packet tracer lab. Basically, you download my packet tracer file, use it in your lab for this week, and now that we're subnetting, another cool thing you can do within this lab is I give you, I think it's like 4 computers. I give you computers, and they're all on the same network, but if you want to do something extra with it and kind of evolve with it, we can use the same hub device that I provide in the packet tracer, but subnet, and put 2 networks on that one hub, and it'll still work. Hub switches, it doesn't matter how many networks you have on them. Well, I guess once we hit the max, you hit the max. But the device itself can house different subnets out of different ports, but only those specific devices are only allowed to talk to the specific subnet they are on. And that's really cool. I didn't bring that up in any earlier videos, but that's a really cool feature, is that using the same piece of hardware, you can have multiple subnets, and those subnets, although they're connected to only one device, they can only talk to their specific subnets they are on. Really, really cool thing to do, especially when we tried it. Give it a try. I'll probably put some extra credit out there for that if you want to submit that packet that you do the extra subnets on. With that, we jump into subnetting 3. We have, I believe, just one more subnetting after this before we change it up just a little bit. I'll have to look at that. Subnetting 3, going back again, make sure to look at that Start to master finding the network address of a given IP. Remember, this is just an IP. It could be the network address, it could be the broadcast address, it could be an IP within the range. I am just giving you an IP and say, you know what, find me the network address, find me the broadcast address, just so you get used to that. I will start grading hopefully tomorrow. Elementary schools are out today, so I have kids home. But I'll definitely start grading tomorrow. And keep in mind that this weekend, Thursday night, I will be going to see my mom. I'll be gone until Monday. I'll have really limited internet access. If you have a question, make sure you reach out through Hangouts since it goes right to my phone. I don't think I'm gonna take a computer down there just because it usually the kids want to play on it, and it's just kind of they they wind down the battery quicker than I can charge. But yeah, make sure you kind of plan ahead for that. Join that Google Hangouts. Once again, it can be found on our landing page at the very bottom. And with that, have a good week. If you have any questions, definitely reach out.